Hi guys, Chris of the Polish Geek back pretty quickly with another movie review and also a very negative one, and that's Mickey 17. And that unfortunately shows that objectively so far 2025 is not a particularly good year for movies. In fact, of this decade I might actually argue so far it seems like the worst, because with the exception of The Gorge, that was great, but other than The Gorge I can't say there was any particularly good movie this year, hence we're still getting some other ones are just destined to be terrible, like live action Lilo and Stitch, and then of course the completely pointless live action remake of How to Train Your Dragon. Yeah, as things currently stand, it seems like 2025 is unfortunately not a good year for movies. Like as I said, there are already several pretty terrible ones, and only one really good one, and I'd say that was The Gorge. And Mickey 17 is another example of that. Like, I was actually kind of looking forward to this movie, but I was worried because I wasn't really sure if this was gonna end up being good or not, but I was cautiously looking forward to it, especially that this seems like to be like one of those original sci-fi movies with ideas about cloning and all, and I really like science fiction movies with interesting ideas, and that one seemed a perfect example of that. And it was also being directed by the same guy that directed Snowpiercer, and Snowpiercer is a pretty good movie. So, as a result, I was cautiously optimistic and looking forward to this movie, but the movie is anything but that. Like, first and foremost, it's a pure political satire and allegory, but it's not like political satire the way it makes fun of everyone on both sides. No, it is strictly like clear. It has a clear bias about current United States politics. And I'm not even getting into that. Like, but I'm pretty sure everyone who saw this movie very much knows already what I'm talking about. But this movie very much felt like a long political lecture rather than an actual movie, and that's first and foremost one of the biggest problems with it. But also, the movie actually has some really neat and interesting ideas, introduces them, but then absolutely does nothing with them. Like the movie also tries to be many things, but ends up being nothing. Like, it tries to be deep and thought-provoking, but again, as I said, it introduces so many neat, interesting ideas, but then just quickly abandons them at the expense of the political commentary and does nothing with them. In fact, I could just say this movie could be like Donald Trump punching bag instead of just being an actual movie, really. But also another thing, it also tries to be funny but completely isn't funny, and another thing, it also tries to be sometimes a character study, but all the characters are so completely boring, bland, and uninteresting. Like, and the story is about this guy, Mickey Barnes, who agrees to just be cloned each time he dies and all that. And we are told that each one of his, and then his clone, which is the title, or Mickey 17, manages to survive, but then Mickey 18 on the other hand, but because Mickey 17 is thought to be dead, Mickey 18 gets created, and as a result, this could have potential for some really cool, interesting story. But as I said, the movie introduces so many neat, interesting ideas and then absolutely does nothing with them. Like, for example, we're actually told that every clone has an entirely different personality, but they all act, not only look, but they all completely act like the same. So even if we're just told they have the very different personality, but we are completely not shown. If anything, it's like the movie keeps trying to tell you that they all have a different personality, but keeps showing you that they are pretty much the same character. In fact, I was sometimes forgetting, like, if I was actually seeing Mickey 17 or Mickey 18, actually. And Robert Pattinson, honestly, doesn't even act very well in this movie, but honestly, I don't blame him, actually. I mean, like, he's pretty much doing what just the script tells him to. Like, I don't think Robert Pattinson is a bad actor. He's actually quite good, but again, he's just doing what the script is telling him to do, and it's not like he can really do much with a pretty terribly written script. And it really sucks, because as I said, Mickey 17 is a movie that, with a really good execution and actually doing what it claimed it was gonna be doing, it had a potential to be a really smart, compelling, interesting movie with some really interesting and philosophical ideas. Like, the whole thing, is cloning ethical in the first place? If someone is cloned, are they still human? Are they really the same person? Or, like, those are all really interesting, deep, thematic questions that the movie very much raises, and then quickly abandons them in favor of, as I've been saying, just constant political commentary that's just too on your nose to really be avoided here, because generally on this channel I very much try to avoid talking like things like politics and religion, but if it's in the movie I will call it out, and in this movie it was just too much in your face to really, for me, not to talk about it. Like, it turns out I was actually right all along to really not look forward all that much to Mickey 17. Like, I didn't include my most anticipated movies of the year list, and I was so right. And even the way the story is told is just messy. It sometimes doesn't really feel like a natural plot progressing from one point to another, but just a bunch of different sequences kind of a character doing different things. And the performances are terrible. Honestly, Mickey 17 is probably one of the biggest disappointments of the year, and it also shows how still so far 2025 so far is not a good year for movies. In fact, if things keep on going the way they're going, unfortunately, it might actually end up as the worst movie of this decade so far. And Mickey 17 is a very perfect example of that. And as I already said before, I'm glad I didn't include it in my most anticipated movies of 2025 list, because it's just not a good movie. As I said at the beginning, it's a movie that has a potential to be a really great, deep, rich movie with really compelling storytelling, but instead it ends up just being a pure mess full of on-your-face political propaganda and combined with terrible performances and just a completely messy plot structure that just completely doesn't make sense, and it's easy to get lost in. Overall, Mickey 17 is just not good. And thank you all of you for checking out this movie review. Press the like button, please subscribe to this channel, and I'll talk to you guys in another video. Talk to you later, bye!